February 24th, 12:14 p.m. District Courtroom number 4.
Yeah, the 4th courtroom. Woo! Rabble, rabble, rabble. Oh my god.
The court will now reconvene.
The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Sky.
Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Yeah, that's right. We got big text coming in, man. We got friggin' big text coming on in here. This boy. All right. Witness, please state your name and occupation.
Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you. Wandering the trails of civilization.
Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed.
Oh, I know! You're a patrolman!
Damn, they're doing him dirty.
As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind call it out.
To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on that day, the crime took place. Is this correct?
Well, according to those papers, partner,
What do you mean?
a desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert stands. No paper can sum it up.
Maybe it's just best we get this on with quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime in English, please.
Day of the crime. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day. But that ain't my style. Besides, that room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at the street side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail.
Yeah, he hasn't ever shaved a single separate spot. Like, they could have at least mirrored the sprite to make it look like he's shaving the other side.
I can't say I particularly care for your attitude.
I can't say I particularly care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining.
Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems?
I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those.
Yes, well, what about the fingerprint activated locks from the inside the evidence room?
Fingerprint activated locks. What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those?
Not being very helpful. Yo, he's not maybe he doesn't know that's a thing. He was a detective, but unless he worked on a case that specifically involved police officers dying, then he wouldn't have ever been in that particular room, because we learned that last time. He is not that good with machines or following orders.
Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor?
This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours.
The day of the crime. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. Yeah, well then where'd you go? Then where are you at now? How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room?
I just made sure nothing moved in the security cameras. That room's so still. Even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings.
You interred them?
Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape.
If nothing unusual is recorded, the tapes are to be erased every 6 hours.
Each time I'd erase a tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life.
He's so poetic, oh my god. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So, in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room?
They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style.
But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right?
Ain't you heard the word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style.
I don't get it.
No desperado I know lets rules get in his way.
No yeah, come on.
So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime,
Well, just between you and me, I didn't even set foot in that evidence room that day.
well, there was a rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that?
Sorry, partner, I can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks.
How does this guy avoid being fired, dude? Okay, besides the room's
protected by 2 security systems.
What am I looking for, man? Where's the... You used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct?
Of course. Back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence.
And yet you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism?
Sorry, partner, I ain't good with machines. I couldn't even tell you how a bike works.
That's quite incredible. The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It is well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too.
Yes, at any rate, it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place?
Well, if I remember right, I was at the street side saloon at the time it went down.
All right, give me more details. What were you doing in a place like that?
I was eating spaghetti. Not even angel steak lunches can beat that parlor's Von Goal sepia pasta.
Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles?
Not all desperados eat tacos, partner.
My God.
That is not what I meant. I hope this at least has taught you a lesson.
That's strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says, "Did you not want a raise this year?" And that's the last thing he says. Do we have evidence about his testimony, about his alibi? Let's find out. Oh, I never got to read these. The SL9 incident files. Yeah, files for the Dark killing solved 2 years ago. Touch the check button for details. Yo, we gotta check this real quick. So closed, criminal Joe Dark, crime, serial murder. Sentence,
Death.
Edward Jones, Jason Knight, Edith Kirby, Rachel Moss, Jeb Bates, Neil Marshall. No one here by the name of Sky yet. Head prosecutor. Oh, witnesses, Lana and Emma Sky. Head prosecutor was Miles Edgeworth, though. And then investigative task force, executive investigators, Damon Gant and Lana Sky. Okay, so chief prosecutor and chief of investigation, but like before they were the chiefs. Head investigator, Bruce Goodman, and then other investigators, Jake Marshall, Angel Starr. Literally every single character involved with this case. Every single one. He's presenting a definite alibi, so we should just... I have no way to pin him being there other than the prince. So I'm gonna do it. I'm so nervous. Yes! Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd that is you being called in to testify like this?
What are you saying, partner?
After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. How crazy.
Yeah, and yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner.
Sure thing, it's quite simple. You left behind a very large trail at the scene of the crime. Or to be exact, a handprint.
Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects. That is, I make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there.
I only wish it were, officer. But the problem, you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood.
Witness? What's the meaning of this? Your bloodstained fingerprints were at the crime scene?
The blood was wiped away, but however, a luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall?
It seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders.
I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall.
About the bloodstained fingerprints?
Well, very well. You may begin your testimony about your fingerprints found at the scene of the crime.
Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the bloodstained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it.
The murderer was wearing gloves. I feel like that's the flaw here.
The witness's explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt.
Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner.
The defense
May now cross-examine the witness.
This guy's hiding something. I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it.
The bloodstain.
Oh no, it's the bloodstained fingerprint!
Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. BS, bro. BS. That's because how did you put it? Pay your respects once a month?
Yeah, that's right. That, and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine.
What?
What do you mean?
I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams.
I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never changed. He must have been using the fingerprint lock without even knowing it. Oh, what did it change about this exactly then? On his own locker, okay.
One of them just happens to be the same place as the bloodstained handprint.
Yeah, I guess if he's claiming that it's his locker, that makes sense. So then, what about this bloody handprint?
Wasn't mine. It's no mystery.
Please explain.
My locker is covered with my fingerprints. It just so happened.
The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. Okay, come on, that's kinda silly.
On the contrary, one could argue the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward from me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why?
The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Unrelated?
They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast, and the other's a type of murder.
He's right. Although seemingly alike, they are totally different.
I don't see what homonyms have to do with this.
Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves?
That seems like the one we're gonna present evidence on. See, here's what I'm thinking too. The murderer touched 2 spots, right? Evidence room, floor plans. The murderer touched the locker on the very bottom right that you see, and then on the bottom left as well. Why would he touch both? And why would he wipe one away but not the other, you know? He wiped one away, but the other one's still there. Did I not press him on the glove statement? I thought I did. How did you know that?
I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports.
There was a blood stain at the scene, though, to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too.
So that would mean the murderer, wearing gloves, happened to place his hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint.
That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner?
The picture?
This seal of blood in the desert is just food for the buzzard.
He doesn't know what print I took.
There's only one reality, and that's this.
Security tape?
So long as my trial isn't there, you can't say otherwise.
This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall.
Too bad it wasn't me in that video. Right, partner?
Yo, fuck this guy. Fuck this guy. What do you mean by that?
You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have.
But the video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots.
Blind spots?
Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, he could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright.
Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now.
In the video? I'm gonna try. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you may wind up being the one making the mistake.
Now then, let's have another look at the video. Show us the incriminating evidence of the witness, Officer Jake Marshall.
This is where I want to be looking, right there. Jake's locker. Also, keep a good eye around, like, close to this. Yeah, you can't see his face at all. Ugh, it's so bad. It's such bad evidence. Oh, there's what's that? I already forget his name. Meekins? Yeah, Meekins. I keep wanting to call him Meeseeks. Quick little stabby fight. Nothing new on that locker yet. Okay, hold on. Any blood prints on that one? No. Wait. I get it. Before, there's nothing hanging out of the locker. But after, look, nothing hanging out of the locker. Nothing hanging out of the locker, but... Oh, wait, one more cycle. But... Dun 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 dun! Show us this incriminating evidence! Ooh! Bringing our attention back to the security camera, Your Honor, is a mistake I'm afraid you'll not soon forget, Officer Marshall.
The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you got to say in 8 words or less?
Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video with the first 8 words. 8 words, this checks out.
Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner.
The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. See, this locker that has white cloth sticking out of it? This is the witness's locker. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit.
What? Where'd it go? It's not there. What's going on, dude? I don't get it. Oh my god, how could the cloth be there in one, scene, but not in the other? This is such a mystery. Can someone explain this? I'm the judge. I never have an idea what's going on literally anytime. I'm an idiot.
When the crime took place, Your Honor, the white cloth wasn't there. Then, it suddenly appeared. Now there is only one explanation for that. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened up the locker when the camera was turned away.
Well, order. It would seem that.
Well, hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was opened? That doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in.
Stuck in it? I didn't read that well.
It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man?
It's not even. It's not gonna make me present this as evidence, right? Please don't make me present this as evidence. Like, if I literally have to clue the judge in on this one, I'm gonna request his formal dismissance from the court of law on terms of inability to think. Doesn't really know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular lock.
Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I opened that locker, now
Prove it. Oh, good. At least the judge didn't ask me to. At least it wasn't the judge, man. Right here, buddy.
Fingerprint sensor?
We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by detectives they belong to.
What kind of crazy talk is this?
Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There's even some people in the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less?
Hell, partner. I only got one word for you, partner.
At least that was 8.
Order. Witness, explain yourself.
This is a joke. It's the worst I've ever heard.
I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please, tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime.
Olay.
Why do you say Olay? Please answer the question. That's all right, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here.
Really?
Have a look at these floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet, Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall.
If that's so, then where was the witness?
It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right. The only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? The biggin! Officer Marshall was standing right where the killer is.
So Officer Meekins didn't notice him standing there. That's almost as credible as Meekins' warp theory.
Your chamber's empty, partner. Better reload.
What? Wait, hold on. He was hiding in this little crack, Your Honor. In this little crack in the top floor, in the top right. He was right in that little crevice right there. The killer is where Meekins was standing. Oh, because Meekins is the killer, right? All right, I guess we try the victim. I forgot. That's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Okay, so I was on the right page. I just got the roles mixed up. Because we all, like, you know, I'm thinking about in terms of what I know. And I know Meekins didn't fucking do it. Look at this guy. This guy couldn't peel an apple. Okay, he can't murder a person.
Why, that's where Detective Goodman was. Correct.
Unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in this video is Officer Marshall. It was you dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the scene of the crime. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman, yet he also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. Well, when I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? Well, he suddenly pulled a knife on me. Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it?
Yes, he would have not needed to enter the evidence room. Or he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it.
The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card.
Oh, I get it.
If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say about this, Officer Marshall?
Well, you've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a team for that, or a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence.
Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it.
You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim.
I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition.
I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining.
Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence? Any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim?
Yes, I do. I got it. Who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that.
I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems like you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat.
Oh, this can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? Is Edgeworth gonna do it? Okay, I want to show you guys first, so you know I thought of it before he shows you, because you know I had the idea too. Okay. Now, the cloth that hangs from from the homie's officer is the same color as his trench coat. That's the explanation. He put it in his locker when he left, and you know he did it off camera. Easy peasy. Just go check the locker. That's all you got to do. It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Nick, try thinking outside the box.
Nick, try thinking outside the box. I'm a ghost.
I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise. But rather, I should look for evidence that came about because he was in a disguise. Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? I love how Edgeworth is literally just on my side now. Like, we're homies now, dude.
What do you mean?
There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance that it might be discovered later, as it had been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker.
Now, according to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, He opened his own locker for some unknown reason.
Some unknown reason. Come on. They're handing it to you on a platter here. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside.
So, what exactly is the point of this piece of cloth?
Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot.
Very well, let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open the locker.
Why he had to open the locker? Alright. Show us why the witness had to open the locker. Yeah, he can't walk around with blood all over his fucking coat. He would have to put it away. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room. Now, I don't know what that reason was. Yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing got soiled with blood.
A bloody white coat.
You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker.
Not bad, huh, partner?
Worst hiding place for, evidence to the crime. Why wouldn't he have thought, maybe don't leave my crime evidence right where I committed this crime? Dummy, you're a detective. You're not using your brain.
Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth?
Well, hell, that looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, you were only half as persistent then as you are today. We all wouldn't have to be here now, would we?
Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it.
All right. It seems the time has come.
Marshall's confession.
I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out and managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15.
So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Large quantities of blood traces were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be?
Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor.
It looked like too much blood for that. Marshall's confession. He's obviously talking about the SL9. When you say it, you mean...
Do you even have to ask, partner?
The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day.
Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over.
But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room?
When a case is closed, only the detective who was in the charge of the case can look at it. Can look at the evidence. I wanted to have a look myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine.
But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it?
That day was my last chance. That's why I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence.
Now hold on. I find this fishy, okay? I find this fishy because think about it. Everything's said and done, right? If he stole the detective's ID and dressed like him and wanted to get his evidence, the one thing that freaking Marshall is forgetting again is that they're fingerprint sensors. You can't get in there without his cooperation. He was in on this. He had to have been in on this, right? because the only person who could have like put the little glove in to keep it open was Detective Goodman, who was then gonna be at the other scene of the crime, or at the, yeah, I don't know. Oh, was there a Marshall victim rate? Yo, let's look at the SL9 case again. Yo, look at that attention to detail. Yeah, Neil Marshall, that's why he cares so much. Oh my god, yo, good eye, dude. Real good eye. Let's press right here. Beanie, you skip Friends Day Friday all the time. Don't even talk. Don't even come at me, girl. Don't even. You're stepping to the wrong big dog here. I'll fight you in a court of law about this. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman?
If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere.
So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card?
I stole it that morning of the incident.
So that's really why Goodman started filling out the lost item report.
I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot.
The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight.
What do you mean, partner?
I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Normally, that locker shouldn't have opened. So it opened because a rubber glove was stuck in the door by chance? Then Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. We gotta take a quick little look. What was I gonna look at? I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. No, we were just talking about the, the locker just conveniently being open. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off?
Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time.
Officer Meekins certainly is a 1 in a million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID.
I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year. Is the typical.
Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything.
By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say.
So what happened next?
And managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera.
Well, yeah. So you did your research beforehand?
Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left.
However, your bloodied coat and you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins.
If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it there.
What was Officer Meekins doing during that time?
What else? He was sleeping like a baby.
So you're saying on that day,
there wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15.
Yeah, that's true. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place.
What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner.
So you stole the evidence from the locker?
Actually, no, I didn't.
Why not?
When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone.
what? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence?
It is still missing, Your Honor. I'm sorry, what? The evidence was already gone. Someone else stole the evidence. What? Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing?
Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer.
Why did you do all of this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer, this is no small offense! Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution.
Like I said, this isn't your case. This one's mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with.
The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more.
I can't just forget that SL9 incident. You know why?
Yeah, it's because you're Neil. Yeah. But the case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? Shoutouts to Wright for finding this evidence. That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for those crimes. One thing I can say for sure, he deserved his sentence.
Yes, I remember that Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it?
Now, I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about.
What happened? What?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think is his real reason. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Okay, yeah. Let's present. Dun, 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 dun. Officer Marshall. I think I understand. I think I know why you so much care about the SL9 incident.
Well, it sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner.
I have the SL9 incident file right here. The name Marshall is mentioned here. In a list of murder victims, Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man?
Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you heard the name 2 years ago. He received the same lousy prosecutor's award that you just got.
What? A prosecutor?
Must have been talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember, Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did.
That's right, and he was killed, and the case fell into your hands.
But what's his relation to you?
He was my brother.
He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, chief detective at the time.
The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer.
Damn, that guy looks evil as fuck.
Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence, and that was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed, at least according to the public records.
What do you mean?
My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. My brother's the toughest.
And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions?
There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me.
Well, at least one thing is for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime.
That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happened by chance never cease to amaze me. At exactly the same time of the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? Oh no, this has got to be more than just chance.
So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murderer in the prosecutor's office was in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one.
which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Sky. But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. Seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All the mysteries at the police department have been uncovered. No contradictions remain. Why did they put a desk slam between that? That made it so weird. The murder took place at the prosecutor's office, and the only suspect is Lana Sky. There were no errors in the testimony of the witness, Angel Star, except for all of her lying. Yes, there were. If you have a response, make it one word or less. Arg. I rest my case.
It seems the trial has reached its conclusion. There is no room for doubt.
Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty.
Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. The court finds the defendant.
Hold it! Nani? Your Honor, wait! Emma? The defense has an objection. A scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right?
Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian?
Your Honor, in a sense. Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky Sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker?
But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and I looked at it again. Did you find something? No. What? Sorry, I built up all that talk and foreplay just to blue ball you at the end. Is that all then? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. But Mr. Wright, the traces of blood are the only clue we have if we can't find something wrong with them. Please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me. Oh, boy.
Time's up now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain?
It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright! I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be...
Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day.
Yes, Your Honor. If I ever needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? Alright, let's see if we get any hints by objecting. The handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear to you is you're grasping, Mr. Wright.
You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, Is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something that hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Is it the blue badger? Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use.
The question is, which item can prove something is missing from the floor plans?
My best bet, I think.
What about that piece of plywood?
The Blue Badger, the mascot of the police force, defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here.
So
Watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well,
What?
oh no. That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint on the spot on the locker. What? Nani?
So that means... Well, just exactly what does that mean?
I'm with the judge this time, man.
What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker.
Don't look at me, I didn't put it there.
Mr. Wright, think through it scientifically.
Emma,
On that afternoon,
Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that means this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in.
Just one moment. I will not allow such a far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but I think it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time, someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refute you. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be fake, but however, this does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves it occurred. When did the first incident occur?
To surmise, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was disguised as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room.
The blood mark on the locker proves this.
Very well. Tell us, when did this first incident occur? Proof must be presented.
Proof that shows when the murder took place? There's only one piece of evidence that can show that.
Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place?
Well, I think that has to be this ID card log. 7777777 at 420, that's an override. That has to be an override. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the perpetrator would had to have entered the room in order to do so. An ID card is required.
An ID card? Oh, the ID card record.
Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be
4:40. What? What? Mr. Miles Edgeworth? What have you done?
I never figured you had the nerve, boy.
Put off the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. He was at the award ceremony. He has an alibi. It's clear from the... Oh, wait, no. He was in the... Sorry, yeah, no. He wasn't at the award ceremony. That was between. That... It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. And unfortunately, why, that's just physically impossible.
That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room.
Well, let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining. 7777777.
Talk about a lucky number.
But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Officer Goodman have entered the evidence room?
Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered alongside with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 7 sevens.
Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number this 7 sevens is.
That was 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card, at least at present. What?
Explain yourself, son.
The ID number 7777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how? I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority.
If an official in charge filed an executive, if an official charge it filed against an executive is accepted.
An official charge?
You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates.
I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself.
Slander, is it? All right, then. Let me ask you a question.
Yes?
No, not to you. To her. The defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive.
Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 7777777.
Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing. About that incident.
The SL9 incident?
Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence?
Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Lana, I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized that we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
Defendant, just what are you saying?
I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did?
Chief Prosecutor, you didn't.
I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why don't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to do in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence.
Damn. That's what I'm talking about.
No. No! Order! 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 That's some intense rabbling. Lana's remarks caused such a stir that the chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. That's how hard they're rabbling. They're rabbling so hard we're going to the next day of trial. Holy heck, man. That is an intense day of trial, but we have no lead. We have no lead as to why it wasn't Lana. We have no clues as to why it wasn't Lana yet. We just have the fact that she did an oopsie in the past.
Well, looks like Detective Marshall's taking the long claw of the law into his own hands.